Hello and welcome to Homescreen. I'm 𝗣𝘂𝗹𝗀𝗲𝗀𝗲, Product Manager at the 11FS Pulse team. In today's episode, we are joined by Trussle, the UK-based mortgage broker, on a mission to help their customers find the best mortgage available to them through an easy and secure application flow. Joining me today is Trussle Head of Product, Michael Loberman. How are you doing today, Michael?
I'm well, thanks, Joe. How are you doing?
Yeah, very, very well, thank you. And it's very exciting to speak to Trussle today, just because of the huge amount of mortgage activity that's been going on in the final year, in the last year rather. So it's very exciting and kind of relevant time to talk to you guys.
Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. Do you think you could just start by outlining what Trussle do?
Here at Trussle, we're completely free online mortgage broker. We've been around now probably for about 5 years, and kind of our mission is really to make home ownership dreams a reality for more and more people. We're an online mortgage broker, but we combine technology with sort of real human involvement. So it's not like an algorithm making a decision on your behalf. We've got a number of highly qualified mortgage advisors behind the scenes that kind of work for us and with our technology. We've kind of built up this smart technology over the years, combining it with the human expertise. And our goal is really to shorten the mortgage application process and to sort of demystify it for customers as much as possible, making faster, more informed decisions along the way.
Yeah, and that's great because I've been through that painful process.
So you know.
I know how bad it is, and I just wish I'd heard of you guys at that point in time. So it's I'm sure you're bringing a lot of joy to people and easing a lot of pain. Specifically about your role, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm head of product over at Trussle. I look over the kind of product function there, but I'm also at the moment kind of running one of our squads as well. So the colleagues tool squad look after all the tools that our sales and operations team use to serve our customers. So it's things like our own internal CRM systems, as well as some of the third-party systems that we use to source the most appropriate mortgage products for our customers, and how we communicate with them, and all the kind of product work that goes along with that. Previously, in a kind of previous life at Trussle, also looked after the more front-end customer journey as well, which will be something obviously that we'll talk about later on in our chat.
For sure. And so those team structures that you mentioned, have you got different teams that are laid out for different purposes like that? And what's the kind of sizes we're looking at as well?
We've got 3 main squads at the moment. We've kind of got internal names for them, but I'll kind of give you more of a flavor of what they do. So one squad looks after essentially anything to do with demand generation, growth, attracting visitors to the site, to our product. We've got one that looks after the customer journey and operational tooling, which is one I just mentioned. And we've got one that looks after our platform and integration with lenders. So we're kind of split that way at the moment. There's some grey areas, and sometimes we go into each other's areas if necessary. But essentially, those are the split. Probably about 6 to 8 engineers on each squad. Each squad has a PM, a product designer, if necessary, and a dedicated data analyst. So we try and make it as cross-functional as we can. Normally each squad will have a sort of a key 1 or 2 business stakeholders who are, although they're not part of that squad, very closely aligned with that squad in terms of the objectives that the squad has. I'd say we're pretty agnostic on things like, which flavor of agile a team wants to use, or we kind of let the teams decide how best to run their work. Most people find some kind of hybrid Kanban, Scrum kind of approach is what they tend to do. And, I suppose not too different to probably a lot of other organizations kind of our size. We kind of tend to roadmap out the next maybe 6 to 9 months with increasing level of detail as you kind of come closer to now, and increasing level of obscurity the further out you get from sort of 3 months plus, because obviously as kind of a sort of Series B, Series C startup, things change very quickly, so we need to be able to adapt to that.
Yeah, absolutely, especially in this environment. If you could just tell us a little bit about the target audience at the moment, and where you see that going.
Yeah, I mean, essentially our target audience is everyone on the home ownership journey. So that's everyone from first time buyers through to next time buyers, remortgage customers, and even sort of buy to let landlords, although that tends to be a slightly smaller proportion of our business. Obviously, being digital first, we tend to appeal to sometimes a slightly younger demographic, but we're seeing more and more, especially with the pandemic and everything like that, where more people are at home, and more people don't have the option of maybe how they might have done this previously, in a previous mortgage, face to face with a mortgage broker or what have you. Don't have that option. So we're finding that actually we're quite well positioned there, and we're seeing our demographic kind of spread as well across the country as well. So it's not just London and the southeast. It's a wide variety of customers from all over the UK.
So you've seen an increased demand since the pandemic then?
Yes, we have seen increased demand. It's been a bit weird, it's been a bit unpredictable, and there's been lots of obviously things that affected. When we first started the pandemic, there was a complete lockdown, and so that was quite a tricky period. People weren't allowed to go and view houses. People weren't allowed to do work on houses. That surveyors weren't allowed to go out to value houses for the lenders. So we saw, especially at the beginning, a bit of a slowdown, maybe more so on the lender side than the demand side. But still, obviously, if you can't, if you can't progress because a lender can't get out to value your home, and because they can't value your home, they can't make a mortgage offer to you, then obviously the whole thing grinds a little bit to a halt. Obviously, as things have slightly eased and the housing market has reopened, and stamp duty, holidays, and all of those things have meant that sort of 2020 was very much a roller coaster ride. But like I mentioned before, we've always been digital first. There's no paperwork that goes on as part of our process. So we believe that we've been very well positioned to answer our customers' needs in that kind of environment.
How does the competition look out there as well?
So I mean, there's a number of digital brokers. I'm sure you'll be aware of a few of them, similar to us, coming into the space. Some sort of established, been around as long as us, or some even longer, that were more traditional brokers, shall we say, that are now sort of turning more and more of their operation over to a sort of more digital first approach. But I would say that, but still the broker market, especially in the UK, it's very, very, very fragmented. So if you look at kind of like, still the vast majority of mortgages go through a broker, but if you look at kind of the market share of some of the top brokers, it's still relatively small share of the market, which means that the rest of the market is just divided up into very, very, very small chunks, and quite a lot of those are just your traditional mortgage brokers. Some of them might be one or two man women bands on the high street, and really, a lot of those people are still our main competitors. A large number of them, albeit, but still, we won't just look at the other digital players and say they're our main competitors. It very much is looking at the traditional brokers as well. And I guess the other thing is, the lenders themselves, right? They're our partners, absolutely. And we have to work very closely with them to get the best outcomes for customers. But equally, I suppose in terms of competition, a customer going directly back to their lender for a remortgage is quite a common thing. And sometimes that can be the right move for a customer, but more often than not, that's not the right decision for a customer, compared with what they might be able to get elsewhere in the market. And sometimes they don't realize that, because they'll go with the offer that is presented to them by their existing lender. So we'll see all traditional brokers as kind of our competitor, as well as repeat customers from going direct to a lender.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to jump straight into the journey for remortgaging. So the user has just set up their profile and they're looking to remortgage their house to save some money. So the user is now adding another person to the remortgaging process. So some nice colloquial language there. We get a confirmation tick there. The email is then added. Nice spacious layout there with the fields neatly separated. We can see down there we've got the chat to us now available at all times. And we're now progressing to the next step. We now, there's a kind of all the different components of the application are separated there in that nice screen, so we can go into different areas as and when we choose. And now we're telling some more information about ourselves. Date of birth included.
Hopefully I can retire earlier than that, but we'll see.
The postcode is then included. You can see that progress bar at the top. And it auto-fills there. Very clean and minimal layout. All of this required information for the mortgage application, remortgage application. Now for the employment section. Slightly disappointing autofill there, but I'll remember that. Start date there. Now the annual salary is added. Just enough to rip Jose away from BT Sport. Nice to see those fields open up as they're selected, as you enter into that screen and you're not overwhelmed with the sheer quantity of it. Seeing a dynamic error state there. The month paid is a required field. All very quick to proceed through. And an optional note can be included.
Not much chance of that being paid.
No, I think that makes that pretty redundant. The only thing that's going to do is application any favors. So there's sort of minimal text, but it's all kind of necessary. You don't feel overwhelmed with the sheer quantity of copy. And I think breaking it down into these different sections also makes it much more digestible. Heavy reliance on drop downs, but only where necessary. And again, we're back to this kind of profile section where we can complete different sections as we please. Yeah, so that was a really nice, really nice flow. In terms of the information entered and around the current property, is there an industry standard on all this, on all the or information being asked there on the user, or are you just kind of gathering a certain set and then using that to help provide the mortgage brokerage application?
Would I say there's an industry standard? I mean, for us, it's all about understanding someone's current situation, the type of property they're looking to remortgage in this case on that journey, how they're using that property. For instance, are they living there? Are they going to rent it out? Because all these things are the types of things we need to know to rule in and out suitable lenders for our customers. So we ensure where possible that we collect as much of that information up front as we can. So we're not going to be, I would imagine, different from other brokers in that regard, in the sense that, they're also going to want to know that information. So I guess from that point of view, it is, maybe standard, I guess, across the industry to some degree. But we've taken great care. I mean, the journey that you've just seen, been recently rebuilt, our remortgage and our purchase, what we call our fact find flow. And we took great care to make sure that we're not wasting any questions. Broadly speaking, every single question is there because the answer to it is important, either in helping us determine what the best mortgage is for that customer, or maybe helping us determine some things later down the line, like when we run credit checks or when we do our automated identification and verification. They're questions that we've asked you the answer for that we can then verify later down the line.
And in terms of the ordering of the questions and even the wording, is that something that you mentioned that you kind of redesigned it recently? Is that something that you improve over time through testing?
Our flow used to be very, very linear. So a very, very linear flow where you had to answer question 1 before you got to 2 and 2 before you got to 3. And when we rebuilt the journey, we made it a lot more flexible. So like you mentioned, there were different sections. So you can do the sections in whatever order you want to. You can skip questions if either you don't have the information to hand, or more often than not, 70%, I think it is, of our mortgages are joint mortgages. Often with your spouse or whatever it might be, and maybe they're not there at the time when you're doing this, so you need to skip some questions and come back to them when they're there with you. So we've made the journey a lot more flexible in that regard. In terms of the ordering of the questions, like within the sections, we haven't experimented too much yet with the ordering of those. We could do, but often they follow quite a logical flow. Like, for instance, we're going to want to know your address of your property before we start asking you whether it's a semi-detached property or not. It would be a bit weird to kind of not do that. So sometimes the ordering is probably more set in stone. But certainly the way in which you can answer it is now a lot more flexible than it used to be.
In terms of, this is actually a question from our producer, Hannah. Is it possible to speed up the profile account making by social media, by Facebook, say?
So if you'd asked me that question 2 weeks ago, I would have said, yes, it is. It isn't anymore. We did have it in there, social sign up. We removed it literally about 2 weeks ago because we were redoing some work on our sign up page, and we weren't happy with our implementation of it. So for the time being, we've taken it out. It represented about, from memory, about 10% of our user base had previously signed up using social sign up. They can still log in using social login, but new signups can't sign up via social at the moment. We've done enough tests around sign up, not necessarily on this, but around other sign up things, to know that we wouldn't expect a material drop off for people who choose not to sign up because we don't offer social sign up. So we're fairly confident that taking it away is not going to be a deal breaker, but at the same time, it's probably something that we would like to bring back at some point.
Yeah, it seems like such a big thing in someone's life that the lack of social sign up wouldn't put them off. But
exactly.
What causes people to be put off a journey. So now we're just going to dive into the second journey. So we're back to the profile. We can see the nice checks there. Nice visual language. And now we're getting asked more questions on the current mortgage. Nice option to skip for now, as sometimes this information won't be immediately available to the user. And again, we're seeing some nice tooltips throughout as well. Some of these questions can be quite complicated. We can see the end date dynamically change there, which is a nice touch. The repayment section now added. Very quick to proceed through, and we're seeing the CTA change shade as it's now available. Again, there's not a huge amount of copy, just the right amount, so the user can find out what they need to proceed and what's required of them. And again, we see that total additional borrowing change there at the bottom. Once the user's happy, they can proceed. If the user was to drop off now, say, could they head back into this and change some of their answers before finishing it off?
Yeah, absolutely. So if a user drops off, we'll be in touch with them as well to see if we can help in any way, if there was any reason for them to drop off. But yeah, if they were to come back, they would come back into the profile, the main profile screen. They'd see that they're only 70% done with whichever section it is, and then be able to go back into that section and continue where they left off.
And is that something that you see a lot actually happening, due to even though this is much smoother than other mortgage applications flows? Is that something you see a lot of?
We do definitely see people complete the fact find over more than one session, but I have to say that the vast majority of people will complete, if they don't complete it, broadly speaking, within about 24 to 48 hours of starting it, we don't notice that they come back. So there will be exceptions to that rule, but broadly speaking, if you haven't completed it within a day or two of starting it, then you're probably not going to complete it.
Yeah, no, I see that. And you mentioned, it's important to clarify this up for the listeners. It's a fact-finding process. This is it more of it's a kind of mortgage in principle flow. Is that right?
It's slightly different to the mortgage in principle. So we do have a mortgage in principle flow. Mortgage in principle flow will be slightly higher level. We won't go into as much detail because it's really just there to guide a customer on how much we think that they would be able to borrow. It won't ask them specific. Normally the customer won't have found a property by that point, so we don't ask specifics about the property. We're not really going into specifics about what lenders may or may not lend to you on this. It's more about, look, we think based on the information you've given us, you could borrow this amount of money, but obviously caveat that, we need to understand more through our full fact find in order to properly give you a recommendation.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that also means you don't have to collect things like documentation, which can take a huge amount of time.
Correct.
Okay, so in terms of the friction that you often see, we've talked about drop-offs already and how you can reach out to them. Where do you see that happening previously and now? Where's the most friction when it comes to these forms?
Yeah, so I mean, we looked a lot about this. We looked a lot on this when we redesigned the journey. I think, like I already mentioned, certainly we see a lot of joint applications, and the way that our form was set up before wasn't really doing as great a job for those joint applicants as the new one does, being able to split it up. I'm not sure if we saw it in the video, but also we've got summary sections now at the end of each of the summary pages, at the end of each section. We had these before in our old journey, but what they would do is they'd summarize your answers, and if you wanted to make a change, it basically took you back into the journey at that point, and you made the change, and then you had to come all the way back through the journey again. Whereas with the new summary pages, we've made it so that someone can edit the answers right there and then, which is a real challenge because you saw how many pages there are and how important the information is, and then to try and condense a section down into a page where you can then edit it from that page, but also try and relay the important information to the customers is quite a challenge. We're still continuing to work on those summary pages, but certainly that reduces a lot of the friction of going back and forth.
Sure.
And I think you mentioned also the tool tips as well. Not everyone is most people are not mortgage is a really big financial decision, possibly the biggest financial decision you make in your life. And the tool tips help to guide people where we know that people tend to get stuck, which is normally around employment questions, income questions, those type of areas, where often it's just not black and white. There's a complex situation that they want to try and get across. But I would say though that, and this is something that having not, I hadn't worked in mortgages or anything before I joined Trussle. I would say that friction is not always a bad thing, especially in the world that we're in. We're not an e-commerce site that we're trying to get people to check out as fast as possible, add an extra item to their basket and and get out. This, like I said, this is a huge financial decision, and we want that to come across in the way that we approach our customer journeys. That people are taking this seriously, and there are a load of questions there, and it probably is going to take you 10 to 15 minutes to fill it out, but there's a reason for that, and it's because we want to give you the best service that we possibly can, and we want, we're taking it seriously, and we want you to take it seriously. So I think sometimes a bit of friction in that situation can be a good thing, because it makes people think twice about the answers that they're giving, and how accurate they need to be, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really important point, actually. And there's actually some similarities, I think, with the investment space, where, should this be just about making it easy, or do we want to make people really think about the answers that they're giving? Maybe it does take a bit longer. Maybe there is a bit more friction, but ultimately, you want to help them in the long run, not just get people through the funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this particular part of our funnel that we're looking at is for people who are ready to remortgage or purchase a property and are ready to go. If someone is in a different situation, such as, hey, I'm looking around, I want to see the types of rates that I might be able to get, or I want some general information about how I save up for a deposit, or how good my credit rating has to be, or things like that, then there's other areas of our site and product that we would rather direct them to get that information, rather than have them spend 10 to 15 minutes going through a fact find when that's not actually what they wanted. And so that's an important part of this as well, is directing customers to the most appropriate place for what they need at that time.
So you've gone through that very efficient fact finding process. How do you manage the relationship then between the information you have and the person who provides the official mortgage advice?
As soon as a customer has finished that fact find process, they're given the opportunity immediately to do a live chat session with an advisor right there and then, if they want to. You saw the live chat button bottom right of the screens we were looking at. That live chat is whilst you're doing the fact find. If you've got any questions, or you're a bit unsure what to write in a different section, that would put you through to one of our customer service team, who'd be able to help you with that. The live chat at the end of the fact find would put you through straight to an advisor, who'd be able to almost immediately be able to take a look at the information that you've sent through right there and then, and potentially be able to deliver a mortgage recommendation to you, at that point, certainly within a short space of time, depending on your situation. If you don't want to do a live chat because you finished the form and you're happy to wait for us to come back to you, usually an advisor will be back in touch with the customer within a few hours, or at the most within 24 hours, maybe if it's a Sunday or something like that. They'll be back in touch with you either with that recommendation, or if they need a few further details in order to make a recommendation, they will ask you for those details. We also encourage our advisors to give a call to every customer prior to issuing the recommendation if they can, because it just helps for them to just reiterate their understanding, and also to just personalize the whole experience and make sure that our customers are aware that, again, this isn't just a robot in the background spitting out the same mortgage recommendation to every single person. This is a personalized service, and I think that's what not everyone obviously realizes. And I think that if you look at our Trustpilot reviews as well, the thing that kind of shines through on them is the level of service that our advisors and our wider operational team give to our customers. And we don't want to lose that, even though obviously as time goes on, more and more of the heavy lifting will hopefully be automated, leaving our advisors with more time to spend with the customers.
Sure. And those reviews definitely speak for themselves. It's very interesting to see how you're so tied up with your partners that they can actually appear on your front end in a sense. That's how close the relationship is, and the user wouldn't know any different as well. So that's a really seamless experience. Before we wrap up, do you want to just quickly talk through the kind of roadmap from here, what the future looks like?
Yeah, I mean, so without giving too much away, we've got, as you'd expect, pretty full roadmap over the coming year and beyond. It's going to be about continuing to work to improve our tools and information for customers who are, like I mentioned before, not quite ready to get a mortgage. So I think that's an area that we want to look a bit more at. So less about those that are ready to transact maybe, and more about those that are not quite ready, and being able to help them get ready and get to that point. We're going to be, so after the success of kind of the fact find rebuild, we're going to be completely rebuilding our customer journey post fact find. So that's all the screens that you'd expect, like when we've made a recommendation, how you can view that and interact with that, how you upload your documents that we need you to do, and things like that, and just kind of improving the journey around those areas. And then obviously continuing to rebuild our internal tools that our sales and operations team use, making them, like I said, mentioned before, taking away as much of the heavy lifting from them, and leaving them with more time to spend with customers and helping customers, especially those in not straightforward situations, and guiding them through the process. So lots to do, very exciting stuff as well. So hopefully this is the year where it really takes a step forward in terms of mortgage automation and
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks so much for joining us and taking us through those flows. Do you have any kind of social profiles that people can follow you on?
Yeah, certainly. We're at Trussle on Twitter, on Facebook. We're 𝗛𝗺𝗀𝗀𝗲𝗲𝗲𝗲, facebook.com/𝗛𝗺𝗀𝗀𝗲𝗲𝗲𝗲. And obviously you can find us on LinkedIn in the usual way. And if you want to come to the website, it's www.trussle.com. Come and give us a try. We'd love to help you help you pursue your dream of home ownership, and I'm sure we can help you if you want to come. And one thing I should also mention as well, I didn't mention it before, it's not only mortgages that we help with, it's also the conveyancing, and potentially if you wanted protection insurance around your home purchase, we're able to service all of those things through ourselves and through our partners, and we can help you on that kind of complete home ownership journey. So please do come and take a look. And if you've got any questions or any feedback, my LinkedIn messages or what have you are fully open. So please, all feedback is welcome.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thanks everyone for watching today's episode. If you haven't already, go follow 11FS YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Also, if you want to see more journeys like these, head over to pulse.11fs.com to find out more. Thank you so much.